Yes.
The AC.
Yeah.
Okay.
So essentially, this is Robert's purchases and Corey's maintenance and purchases as well. It makes up that $13 million. So next slide item is proposed elementary school debt payments. We need a loan to build these schools. We don't have $55 million in reserve to build the schools. But we need a loan. So I'll talk about the detail of that later. $4.4 million. In my conversations with lenders, it's a possibility they want us to put essentially a reserve fund in case of non-payment. And they want us to potentially have about a $4.5 million reserve fund established. It's kind of like when, for example, when I built my house, I had a construction loan. The bank asked me to put a large sum of money, $30,000, $40,000 into their bank that they held that I couldn't access until my loan was paid off. Same concept. It's our money. They can't use it, but they want to hold in reserve in case we non-perform our loan. Not going to happen, but that's part of the underwriting process of the bank. I'm working with them on that to hopefully not have that, and I think I made progress on that, but this is worst case scenario.
I was asking a question about a streaming thing. Can you tell me again what loan we're talking about for the 4.5?
For the Discovery Elementary and West Tremont Elementary School builds.
And the total amount of that loan is
About $55 million. I'll have a slide on that. I'll give them that detail at a later point here. Secure vestibules. So HB 84 back in 2003 required school districts and any school really to secure their front entrances. Called a secure vestibule, a place where they can contain visitors that can't get into the main part of the building without verifying their identity and be basically a secure area. We have some schools that are challenging to construct those that require significant capital investments. We're forecasting about $2.6 million. We haven't designed those yet. That's just our best guess based on what we know might need to happen. Secure sewer preventive maintenance. Right now, we're working with our construction managers to inspect all our sewer lines with a camera, determine where they might be failure points. And this is to fix those failure points so later on during school hours or in the future, we don't have broken lines. This is preventative maintenance. Kind of like taking your car to the mechanic and having them do a once over and check everything that needs to be lubed or replaced, tires, oil, washer fluid, all those things. That's what we're doing for our sewer system to prevent that. Yes?
Does that amount include just finding out, or does that include the actual maintenance?
This is the repair. So the finding out we're doing right now in this fiscal year with existing budgets.
Okay,
thanks. Then next we have air conditioning installation. Now I have detail on these line items in different slides, but this is the overview. $5.1 million to air condition the remaining parts of our school district. So every building has air conditioning. We know that was a priority for the public in our surveys. So we're putting forward existing capital funds to do that. School bus purchases. So we refresh our school bus fleet as buses age out. Currently, we're doing about $1.3 million to $1.5 million per year. So this is that line item for those purchases. Then we take the older buses, we go sell them at auction. A lot of times we get $8,000, $10,000 for a school bus. Not a lot. We use them till their maintenance costs more to operate than it is for us to buy a new school bus. The biggest thing on school buses, the problem is emissions items. So they're all diesel vehicles. So the diesel particulate filters and the diesel exhaust fluid system are very costly to replace. So when we get to that point where we're looking at a $40,000 or $50,000 repair and parts, it's that time to replace that bus. District vehicle purchases. Currently, we don't have a plan for purchasing district vehicles as they age out. And this is for what we call our white fleet, Suburbans, vans, cars that are used around our district to transport students and staff for their different responsibilities. As I mentioned earlier, we have some Suburbans that are 200,000 miles. That's pretty high for a vehicle that depends on to transport students around the state. So as these age out, we will buy new vehicles, sell the old ones at auction, but this is a line item to purchase those as we need throughout the year. Bear River High School improvements. Oh, you have a question?
I was just curious if that was the same budget for the driver's ed cars, or
it could be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we can move driver's ed cars into the fleet and buy new driver's ed cars. We try and use these vehicles as much as we can until they start costing us money extra for maintenance or we feel like they're unsafe. So we try and, for our larger vehicles, our trucks that are in CTE or maintenance vehicles, they're about 150,000 miles that we start to move them on. Other vehicles, the sweet spot's right about 100,000 miles where they still have decent amount of value, but they're not starting to fall apart so much as maintenance.
Just a question or an answer about driver's ed cars. We used to have a state grant that brought about $60,000 annually, and that grant was eliminated. And so we would buy about 2 cars and kind of replace the oldest 2. And so that would be kind of the rotation. So now that that's gone, then we're going to have to find a way to run them, sell them, and use some general funds to kind of help that. 12, 13. We're at 13.
Another thing about driver's ed vehicles is they have some special equipment inside them that about $10,000 to $15,000 extra for the passenger side brake and things like that. There's other things that go into those vehicles. I mean, I learned to drive without the passenger side brake, but I'm sure most today they appreciate it. All right, playground budget again, $500,000 total expenditures, and most of these are one-time expenditures of $39 million. So,
So the Bear High School improvements.
we'll get to that. I have a slide for that.
And I also just mentioned, we've not voted.
No, this is a proposal
So
for us
this
to
is what
discuss.
you're proposing and not going, right?
Yes.
We voted on it.
Yes.
Some of this stuff we went over. Some of this stuff I don't think we.
I think when I met with you, the Bear Rivers High School improvements haven't been fleshed out yet, so that wasn't on there. That probably is new for you.
And that's the same for all of us then.
So budgeted fund balance question mark because we don't have a budget yet. When we pass that budget in June, we'll have a number there. Estimated funding balance based on this work here is $14 million. Remember, we have $4.5 million set aside for debt reserve. So really, it will be about $18 million. I'm pretty sure that's what we'll end up at. I don't think we'll have to have that debt reserve. So our fund balance history. In 2020, I went back to there, $23.8 million is what our fund balance was there. In 21, I went to $31 million. What happened in 21? We got a loan for Golden Spike. So that money got deposited there. So that went up, but it's earmarked for construction only. Then we built Golden Spike, and it went down to $17.5 million. Golden Spike was a $15 million loan, the $25 million build when you factor in all we call FF&E, fixtures, furnishings, and equipment that goes inside the building. All your school lunch stuff, all your desks, your chairs, computers, furniture in the office, all that. And that total bill was $25 million. So we did about $10 million out of our regular fund balance and 15 from a loan. Any other questions?
Sorry, I was just clarifying the difference between the cost of Golden Spike and
West Tremont, we'll be about 9 years later by the time we start construction. So great question. So that cost to build that school as designed in 2017 was $17 million.
No, it's 2021 is when Golden Spike.
Well, I'm trying to compare West Tremont to West Tremont. Then same building footprint, $17 million. Today, same building footprint, $35 to $40 million. So we're not done with engineering yet because engineering standards change. So that's a wild card we have to deal with there. Any questions? Okay. So our low point was 2022, 17.5. Then we started building fund balance as we go through. One of our bigger jumps right here was due to there's a tax increase that was passed by the board in 2023. So we have a jump here about $4 million. There's a bigger jump here. This is mostly due to construction projects that didn't materialize, and additional tax funds, mostly from our fee in lieu and other taxing or flat taxes that we get that aren't part of the property tax calculation. So then we're going to end up potentially at the end of this year or next year about $14 million if we do all these projects. Really 18 million when you factor in the debt service reserve, but I'm forecasting for worst case scenario here. You have any questions on this?
Is there an amount we're supposed to have, like a state recommended amount?
There's not. There's not. That's been a question amongst business administrators across the state, asking what is your recommended policy? Is there a policy on your board for how much percentage of cost you have in here? And there's not, because districts are usually doing construction or maintenance projects across the year, and their maintenance schedule or construction schedule may vary. So when you sell a bond or you borrow money, it goes into this fund. So it may look like a huge balance like we had in 21, $31 million, but half of that was earmarked for construction. So it's hard to have a recommended ongoing fund balance in this fund because of that. And we could break out to a different fund, and sure, we could have a board target, but there really isn't a standard across the state for that target because this all depends on your facility and maintenance needs.
Neil, for
Yes.
clarification, talk about the need for the 5%.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if that's part of it.
Yeah, so the general fund balance, so operational fund, that's what our mission is, to teach kids. All the funds to support that, we call it Operation or Fund 10. Fund 10, the targeted balance by the various organizations that I belong to, Government Finance Office Association, GASB, Government Accounting Standards Board, and various Utah Public Treasurers Association, 25% of operational costs should be saved in the reserve. That's essentially 3 months operational costs. Yeah, so 3 months, 1 quarter. That is consistent of what people preach in personal finance, have 3 months of expenses saved. For us, that's about $32 million. We ended last year in the general fund, not listed here, but in the general fund, about $28 million. Pretty close to that target. Of that $28 million, some is earmarked for various things. For example, we have $3.9 million, and we call it's a reserve account. The board selects and funds $3.9 million. The limit of that is 5% of your expenditures. We have about 3.9% in there. This year, if we want to, as a board, we can dedicate additional funds to get to that max 5% in the operations fund. Other things in there that are earmarked are funds for we call retirement liabilities, about $4.5 million. There's additional funds for other dedicated projects such as curriculum adoptions. We have dedicated funds for personal development in there. So we have various dedications, but we have about $12 million in there that's not earmarked for future spending. That is just capital savings operational savings from when we had those needs. Because we know what our state funding is going to be every year. Our local funding kind of ebbs and flows depending on the payment rate of taxes in our county. Our county has about a 94% payment rate, but that's been coming down in recent years as high as 96. So that affects how much local money we have coming in. Also, all our flat fees in lieu, those ebb and flow with the economy. We have a recession. We have consumers not buying vehicles and trailers and all those things. That's going to go down. So we have a fund balance to take care of those uncertainty in local tax flows. Also, our federal government at times cuts funding or redistributes funding, or we have funding decline for different reasons. For example, in Title I, it's based on poverty rates in our county. Those rates are declining. The 2020 census, our poverty rate was 9% in our county. The most recent census data came out for 2024 year was 6%. So we had a 3% decline in poverty rates in our county. That equated to a $250,000 cut in Title I funds. So we have these local savings to account for those uncertainties that happen over the years. Questions? Okay. Questions on fund balance history? Okay. Let's talk about our proposed purchases. So we talked about district vehicles. We're going to replace older vehicles to reduce maintenance costs. School buses, again, we're going to replace aging vehicles on a periodic schedule. Buses are a long lead item. We have some buses that we ordered in 2024 that have not been delivered yet. We're still waiting on them. So that's why we have maintained this budget here to periodically order buses so we know when they come in, they're available for use. Because they're not a common item. They're not like F-150s that you build millions a year. But not quite custom order, but it takes a while. There's only a few manufacturers, mostly Bluebird and International make buses. And so there's only 2 manufacturers, and it's a longer time to get these buses. Secure vestibule. So here's the detail on that. With Corey and DWA, our construction manager, we estimated what we're going to have to do, what we need to do. So we need about $100,000 for Bear River High School. We need about $500,000 for Box Elder High School, and Box Elder Middle School. It's about $2 million because right now the office is way down the hall. So to move that and create additional space for secure vestibules in front will take some funds. Corey is here to talk about this if we have questions on that for Corey.
State funding on that house bill?
Not for this.
Asking for state, is the state funding helping because they're mandating it?
No.
And how long are we thinking that will take?
If we approve these projects, that depends on the capacity of local contractors. We would have to go through, especially for the middle school design process, architects will be involved and go through that process. It's a smaller design process, but we still have to go through that process. The deadline for having these in place is 2034. They gave us a long lead time notifying, hey, we're not going to help you with these construction costs, so please plan on it. And so that's, again, part of our capital balance is to plan for these long-term construction projects.
We would like to do it sooner than later. Safety
Yes.
reasons.
Yes, there are some safety concerns that we'd like to address, so not everybody can just walk in the building and not be noticed.
I don't think there's one of us on the board, directors, or anybody who doesn't think this is great. It's important. It makes sense.
Yes,
right?
yes,
But it is a big financial.
it is. And this is, I'm not sure what year this building was designed and built, but I know it was decades ago that this was not even in consideration. My son goes to Weber High, and they have the same problem. You walk into that school, they have a secure vestibule, but the office is way far away, and you walk into a giant courtyard, that spoken hub. So for them to secure it in a meaningful way would be difficult as well. So we're not unique to the problem that to comply with the law, it's going to take significant amounts of money. I can go back to this one here. Sewer maintenance. Those are our estimates. We don't, based on the historical costs and expenditures, for example, the fix the Lakeview problems are about $120,000 this year. We don't know what we're going to find. These are just ballparks of what we think we might need. And we'll know better about that probably closer to July, Corey?
Hopefully sooner. Hopefully just a month.
Okay. Well, that's basically July.
Okay, July.
Questions on the sewer maintenance? Yes.
Just that, is that like you in addition to what we've already spent? Or just
Yes.
that's
Yes.
in addition to?
Yes. So we fixed what was broken, but we didn't fix what could break in the future. Air conditioning, of the $5.1 million, here's our breakdown. You can see Bear River High School is the biggest cost. We have the equipment. We bought it during the pandemic, but we didn't have funds or I wasn't here. I don't know why we didn't install, but I know that funding was an issue back then. And so that's an estimate there. I know we haven't gotten very far on that one. So we're estimating about $5.1 million for all these projects. Caveat is we don't have to dedicate all these funds in this year. We can have some timeline to do that, but that would be a priority the board establishes.
And I thought for this year, we already decided for the middle school, or is that
Yes.
fiscal year 26?
That's the current one we're in. We dedicated 1.5. This is in addition to that 1.5.
So this is,
So really that 1.5 will roll over to this year because we're not going to get it done this year. So that 1.5 will come back into the fund balance. It's not part of this.
And when we approved that, we just decided we'd take a chunk, that line item. When we approved that line item, it's like the playgrounds. It's just one or two schools at a
Yep.
time.
Yep. The 1.5 was only for the middle school at the time for this year. And these are additions to those. Yes. But this is a need here that we're going to earmark for those things, and we'll keep on rolling that forward according to the board priorities of which schools to prioritize and when to do those schools. Playground upgrades, $500,000. Here's a rationale. Replace older playgrounds that pose a safety hazard. Time to time, students get injured when a playground fails. Broken bones sometimes. We want to prevent that. They're very old in some places. They're not big enough. They're inadequate spaces. We know we have an overcrowding issue in a lot of elementary schools. And contributing to that is our playgrounds don't have enough space for kids to spread out, and it creates behavior and other incidences where if we expand our playground spaces and put newer, more modern playgrounds in there, that hopefully will alleviate some of those issues.
so with the plan for the new playgrounds, do we just plan on wood chips, or are we getting like the,
Pour in place.
does that mean the rubber thingy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That is this new standard for schools.
Heidi, do you have something to add to that? Neil did a really great job of summarizing it. One thing to just okay, we do have 250,000.
Is your mic on? I think your mic's off.
I think we have 250,000 in the budget annually for ADA playgrounds, so we are working through that. Really good news to hear there's 500,000 for this summer to get started on projects, because there is a major discrepancy between the playground spaces that we have available the year and the quality and just the availability of space to play at North Park and McKinley when you compare it to Century or Discovery or Golden Spike or Garland. Many of our elementary schools have a separate play space for our younger elementary students and our upper elementary students, and in addition to that, some of our playgrounds also have a kindergarten / preschool playground and an ADA playground. At both McKinley and North Park, there's like genuinely one little playground that's smaller than the center of this space that all 650 kids get on at one time, and those are really outdated and old. So that's the initial intent here, is to begin with those two playgrounds and update and expand, increase, so that we have less of those safety hazards to repair some of the old broken stuff. Make it so that they have a space to separate the K2 and 3-5 students. That's something we've heard many concerns about and frustrations from our school community councils and parent communities in both of those areas over the last 3 to 4 years. So I think that it's something that they've really been pushing for and promoting. This next year, the ADA playground is being allocated to Century Elementary because they hold ESY there and they have functional skills. We've been alternating North End, South End. We're considering the next one going in at either McKinley or North Park based off of need. So they'll be started this summer. It sounds like they won't be able to be done, right?
For the ADA of 500 or in addition to 500?
Neil's saying in addition.
In addition, we approved a new line item, I want to say in March or February. I can't remember which month. We have too much fun together.
When we do 250,000, if we split that between the two playgrounds and then the pour in place itself is about 60,000, that would leave like 60,000 worth of equipment, and that is not very much. It's like one climb on object without slides or swings. So 250 between the two schools just would not provide them with very much. Yeah, I just wanted, like, the context for me, I was like, oh, $250,000 state of the art playground, but it's really not. And when you split it between two schools, and the pour in place is really an upfront expense for the safety.
I think for context, the new playground at Discovery Elementary ADA compliant is about $165,000. They're expensive, they're needed, and we need to make them safe and have adequate space for all our students, because recess is a really important part of the elementary experience.
Maybe an explanation on why the Ford Place mill a little bit, why that expense is.
So the pour in place, we have a member on his way, and I want to let him know that he can still come. It's Clay's on his way. The pour in place is a risk issue. It prevents a lot of injuries, serious injuries from falls. The wood chips, in the wintertime, they freeze and they're hard as rock and they fall and they hurt people. They have to be maintained on a regular basis. AstroTurf or the turf, artificial turf, it used sometimes gets wear patterns and wears out fast. It has to be reconditioned. The pour in place really is the most cost effective at reducing injuries and being long lasting.
More access.
Other questions on playgrounds? Okay. Box Elder High School. Actually, let's skip this for now because Clay Turin is vice principal of Box Elder High is on his way. Sorry, Bear River High, I'm sorry. So let's skip these right here. Let's go to the elementary. All right, so construction plans. Discover Elementary expansion, 12 classrooms, 8 are general ed classrooms. These will eliminate the 2 portables that we already have there. We have a preschool and we have a special education space as well. Is that accurate, Corey?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we have 10.
Oh, sorry, net 8, but net of 8 when we take in the portables. Okay, so 10 general classrooms, preschool classrooms, special ed classrooms. We're going to take some of our special ed students from other locations that have a high burden for special ed, move them over to the Discovery Elementary to spread out that population and allow students to attend closer to the neighborhood schools where possible. We're going to add additional gym space because you can't eat lunch and have gym at the same time. And so we don't have enough space for that. And so we're adding additional gym space for that purpose. So we can separate our lunchtime from our PE time and have them run at the same time. Additional playground area as well. We're going to have a playground area go to the north into the field right there. Not the whole field, but a portion of Davis Park will become play space for these students. Again, with our aim to increase play spaces, have adequate spaces for students and adequate playground equipment, ADA compliant for those students that need that. This will add between 180 to 200,000 students. Sorry, not 1,000, 200 students. 180 to 200 students total capacity. Questions on Discovery? Not listed here is we're air conditioning the building. So as part of this project, the old part of the building will receive air conditioning as well as the new part. Cost is about $15 million. Total cost, yes.
I remember being in there, I remember being in there with like the questions about updating the
Controls,
fire alarm.
yes.
System
Fire and air conditioner controls, yes.
Is doing it.
Yeah. One thing we didn't see coming when we designed this building doesn't have fire sprinklers in it. It wasn't required in 1994 when it was built. Now required. So we're going to have fire protection in the new building and the old building. So we're going to have to sprinkle the whole building. So that's additional cost that we weren't considering when we started the design process and RFP process. So we'll bring the whole thing up to standards, including secure vestibules as well. West Tremont, I think we're about 30 classrooms, Corey, is that?
We are 10,000 square feet.
How does that compare with?
So Golden Spike Elementary is 104,000 square feet. And this Fremont Elementary would be 85,000 square feet.
so it's about 20,000 square feet smaller. We are about 34 classrooms. It's one story. We have done modifications to the 2017 design so that it is more suitable for some of our populations that need special accommodations. And as I think I mentioned before, also additional office spaces for admin and counseling. Garland is approximately 73,000 square feet, I think. So it's about 10,000 square feet bigger. And back to Discovery, that addition is 28,000 square feet. The current building is 53,000 square feet. So it's going to put Discovery square footage somewhere between the
Garland and North Park.
somewhere around that 85,000. I don't know. Where's our math teacher? Add to that quick. Somewhere around 80,000 square feet. How many classrooms are there? 33.
Let me double check, because I remember it being right. They count that middle.
The middle core or the middle common areas that they use for support staff, that is not counted as a classroom.
So in these 34 classrooms, there's also support space, there's conference room space, there's instructional training space. So we're just talking about actual student instructional spaces in that 34 number.
One of the things too, I just want to point out with Golden Spike versus Tremont, and Golden Spike will have more seating for students in the cafeteria. We'll have more gym seating. So Golden Spike is 259 students per cafeteria. Tremont is 281. The dining or the gym is 490 seats at Golden Spike, but at Tremont it will be 624. And then the media shelving is bigger because we just realized that that doesn't work for the number of students. So those common areas are going to be bigger to accommodate the size of the school.
And if you've been in Golden Spike Elementary and you've been in the Garland, Fielding, 3 Mile Creek design, this West Tremont Elementary really is a blend of those two. As far as where the classroom wings are, how they function, and where the gym cafeteria is kind of connected. It's kind of a blend of those two designs.
Other questions on West Tremont? On the building design, timeline, anything like that? Okay. Let's talk about the construction loan here. So we have 3 banks that are helping us out here. And we have 3 because we need separation of duties. So Zions is our municipal advisor. We have a contract with them for them to advise us on these types of scenarios, borrowings, loans, financing. They provide the financing detail every year for our loans. They're actually the trustee on our loan for Golden Spike and also our general obligation loan as well. Because they are our advisor, they can't be, that's new. In the past 2 years, we signed a contract with them. So when they loaned us funds for Golden Spike, they are not our advisor. So they cannot issue us a loan because that'd be a conflict of interest as an advisor. So they're advising us on this. Bank of America is our underwriter. In an advisory capacity, Zions put out a solicitation to various underwriters, other banks for this project. There were 3 that responded. Bank of America gave us the best terms between the underwriting, the bond counsel fees, and we call it the spread. So spread is the distance between the average market rates, called MMD, municipal market data, and that is calculated every day on every loan out on government debt, mostly state and local government debt. And so their number of basis points they wanted to cover the cost of this loan, underwriting, legal fees, was the lowest amongst the 3 people who responded, 3 banks who responded to this loans. So they are the winner on basis of a cost. The Zions Bank also analyzed past performance, experience with school financing deals in the past, and determined that Bank of America, in addition to the cost, was the most experienced and provided us the best experience for securing this loan. U.S. Bank will be our trustee. Because Zions can't be the trustee, and when you borrow, usually you have a third party that's not the same party doing the lending as a trustee to receive the funds and distribute the funds. So they'll be our trustee on this deal. The underwriting and the trustee part. Okay. So the underwriter, separation of duties, separation of conflict of interest. Okay. So Zions is our advisor. So they're like I'll compare us to a mortgage loan. They're our mortgage officer. Now, when you go get a mortgage, they have, unless you buy from a in-house bank like Wells Fargo writes their own mortgages, but you go to an independent mortgage officer, they get mortgages from various different banks. And so Bank of America is our mortgage officer. They're going to look at our financials. They're going to look at our credit rating. They're going to assess our credit worthiness. They're going to say, based on this, here's your risk, and here's what we can get you in the market. So they're going to guarantee us a certain amount of yield or proceeds from this loan. And so that's where they're coming from. U.S. Bank is the trustee. So back to mortgages. Generally, the bank that you borrow your mortgage from is not who you pay your mortgage to, the third-party servicer. So U.S. Bank is the third-party servicer. They'll collect the funds and distribute the funds and ensure compliance with the loan requirements and also with any federal or state reporting requirements as well. Currently, Zions acts as the trustee for our Golden Spike loan and also for our general obligation bond loan.
Which one actually gives us?
Bank of America. And we chose them based on experience and on total cost. Yes, Stephanie.
I was just curious, the 4.44% interest,
Correct.
that's the rate we're getting for this loan?
This was quoted on April 1st or about April 1st.
Okay, the quoted amount. How does that compare to the loan that we could have had it not been?
Great question. It's probably about the same because the middle of February is when that process stopped. We still had a series of meetings to hold legally before we could have went out for the loan. We would have been seeking that dollar amount at this same time right now, probably in the month of May is when we would have sold bonds, and we probably would have been the same cost. So it's not the interest rate that we would have had this time would not have any different because the time we started that process in December, we had zero idea there's going to be a war in the Middle East. And that's what's driving interest rates up right now, is the war in the Middle East.
So we have these three banks.
Yes.
Are there fees involved with each of the three banks?
This right here, this interest cost is total interest cost incurred. So what they do in accounting terms, they amortize or spread off the cost of issuing this loan, legal fees, underwriting fees, credit check fees across the whole loan term. And so the fees are included in here.
All three banks are included in the 4.4
Correct.
All three are included in the 4.4 interest and in the 4.4 million annual payment.
Correct.
And is there a way to break them out so we know?
Yes, I didn't display that here, but the total cost of issuing this loan are about $170,000. Legal costs, underwriting costs, credit check costs, costs of going to of doing all of the research. That's what those costs are. And those are spread across the life of the loan. We call them amortized costs. So we issue a certain amount to each period of the loan in each year. So they get their money up front, but we pay it back over time. And that's the requirement of the underwriter. The underwriter pays all those fees up front for us, and they get their money over time back. Other questions on this process?
So how does this differ from what we were looking at doing in the other?
It's not a bond, and bond rates have slightly better interest rates. It used to be between a general obligation bond and this type of loan, there would have been a 0.5 percentage point difference or 50 basis points. That is narrowed to 25 to 30. So the incentive to seek a general obligation bond and all that process goes with it is kind of out the window, because a lot more compliance costs and timeline to get a general obligation loan, where this right here can be done much quicker, and the additional cost for the risk the banks incur is much less, because a general obligation is a guaranteed amount secured by property taxes, earmarked only for repayment of that loan through the collection of property taxes. Underwriters and banks see that as the most secure form of government debt, because there's an earmark for that and it can only be used for that purpose. This is being funded by general property tax receipts. There's not a specific area earmarked for that, so they view that as more risky. Essentially, if we wanted to, we could not pay this back and keep our money. And so that's why they have a higher interest rate to account for that risk. It's kind of like getting a home equity loan versus a first mortgage. Your first mortgage is always first repayment and has a lower interest rate than a home equity loan.
So the general obligation bond, is that the same as the lease revenue bond?
No.
So how is this different from the lease revenue bond?
This is a direct lending product to us. Doesn't go through the leased revenue process. Doesn't have the same resolutions. It's not a separate legal entity. In this case, the building authority for the lease revenue bond that takes it out. So this is a direct loan product. So really the difference is in the legal details of how it's secured and what is allowed. As far as how it affects us, there's not much difference. I mean, there might be we're talking basis points. So each basis point is 0.01%. So there might be 5 to 7 basis points difference between this and a lease revenue bond. Again, a lease revenue bond doesn't have a dedicated funding stream because it's generally not voted and approved by the taxpayers for a separate line item on your taxes. It's funded out of existing tax receipts.
So with this route, who actually owns the buildings?
Essentially will be like a lease revenue, where there's a entitlement to the underwriter, Bank of America, that we lease back from them till the loan's paid off. It's the same thing with Golden Spike. Golden Spike is a ground lease from Zions, and that we make lease payments to Zions. They hold title to it, no different than when you buy a car dealership with a loan. The dealership has a lien on that title. You can't sell that car until your lien or your loan is satisfied. So this is no different than we already operate.
How many buildings
The past 10 years that we built using this finance option.
Golden Spike and Fielding are the two ones that I know right now that we have outstanding. Those are two outstanding debt right now. So general obligation bond, which is we used to expand high schools back in 2008, is one of our loans, and that was a 30-year loan. Fielding was also, I think, a 20-year loan. We're going to pay that off this year. Last payment is this year, and then Golden Spike as well.
Like elementary, Sunrise High School.
Those were all funded with existing capital reserves. The difference between that is the cost of building was much less than it is today. Other questions?
I guess my question is this: when we received a petition of 8,000 people asking us not to go out and do this kind of a loan, to me, it looks like that this is the same kind of a finance vehicle, kind of like a horse of a different color. So what are we interpreting that the people ask us with that petition?
I would say, from my perspective as the business administrator and financial advisor of the board, if you will, the difference here is the amount and the projects. I would say that district leadership feels that these elementary projects are a must need now, given the growth we've seen from our demographer that's forecasted, given the building developments we know are coming, and given the overcrowding we have in our current buildings right now. Don't feel like we are at a luxury of waiting an additional 18 months or more to secure financing by putting on the ballot to begin construction. We feel this is a need that we must address now, not in 18 months. So I say that's the rationale for proposing this and going forward with this.
I see that as the rationale, and I'm not saying I disagree. I'm asking specifically the financing vehicle part of it. It looks like we're going out to get financing, which I think the petition was asking us not to encumber the residents with that kind of a long-term debt. We're going out with another horse of a different color to encumber the residents again.
We're not encumbering the residents for any additional funds that aren't already secured by local property taxes. This is within our local property tax budget. I understand that there's a public opposition to our financing. I feel that we have what we were seeking before, actually not have almost a third, 55 million versus 140 million, and restricted it to elementary projects only, which has been a concern of the residents that was expressed to us through the different surveys we did and community feedback. So yes, it's a different financing, different color, but it's done to address the needs we have right now.
So would it be possible to, again, go back to the residents and ask them in a voted question, I guess, if they would support these projects and do it with a general obligation bond, which puts the power back in the residents rather than us going forward with these. I'm not saying that the projects aren't needed. My question is only the funding mechanism. I just feel like that although we feel that they're needed, we are, I think, legally required to represent the residents. And I think they've told us in a couple of different ways that they don't want this kind of obligation. So I'm just wondering if we might be stepping over a line that we are supposed to represent them first.
So I will answer this in a few different ways. First of all,
my first question is, could we go to a voted question on these projects and this amount in a geo bond, government bond?
it's possible by a vote of the board by August to approve a ballot question for the financing of these projects. That is an option the board has. By doing so, the soonest that we would have the go-ahead from the voters would be in November. And then we would go through that process again, if it's through a least revenue process, to start the resolutions again. We really have like close to 90 days of legal requirements to be able to start that least revenue bond process again. So that puts us into February before we can even go out for the loan and go through the underwriting process. We probably wouldn't have funds until this time next year, going through that process.
A general obligation bond would be an additional tax, we would not go.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say was you said general obligation bond. So in order to pay for that, it would have to be an additional tax. A lease revenue bond, which was, which failed, or, they had the signatures stop that. And so anyway.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have said in that formula that we could roll back the taxes. Go back the taxes. And, we've heard you a couple of different times that this isn't what you wanted. We feel like that this is what we've heard that you do want, because you mentioned the surveys and stuff. this something that you would support financially? This is what we think that we've heard you, different, but this is, would you support a GO bond financial mechanism?
So, in addition to what I was, go ahead.
I think everybody understands that, yes, that could happen. That question, of course it could, it would take the board to vote to do that, right? So if it was a clarifying, I mean, we all know that, of course, that is an option, but it would take the board to vote to do that.
I might just go, I might add a couple things. So when we start talking about, and I agree, if we want to do a survey about that question, certainly, if the board wants to do that. I think one thing that we need to note is that, you know, there's a lot of things from the 2024 bond that changed. There's a lot of things that, based on that feedback, we changed for the lease revenue bond option. And what we're hearing, and I hope that as you saw the presentation, we're investing in Lakeview, North Park, Bear River Middle, Box Elder Middle. We have to extend the life of these buildings. You can also see the grades 6 through 8, 9, 12 is off the table. Now, whether it ever goes back on the table, I do believe that that would be a vote of the people through a survey to say, is that something you want to pursue? But the immediate need, as we're all hearing, and as you look at the elementary portables that keep coming, there is a need there, and all other things have been put to the wayside for now. And whenever that happens, whenever there's an appetite, I think we look at that. But having a secure vestibule at our 3 largest schools is a priority. Having AC in Bear River Middle, a priority. Some may say, well, why are you putting AC in a building? Well, because right now there's not a mechanism to secure a loan. But to Karen's point, if there needed to be a situation where we said, you know, we're going to roll back and we're going to go for a GO bond, are you okay with, you know, these 2 projects that influence roughly a population of 600 students and 800 students? So not a significant amount of our students are going to be affected by these 2 projects if we go out to a general obligation bond. So that would be interesting to see if the people would vote for that if it didn't affect Bear River Middle, Box Elder Middle, Lakeview, North Park. So those are just some thoughts, but I hope that if anybody's watching or listening, that you hear that the plans that we've had have changed. It's very significant that they have changed. They're not the same. We've pulled back, and I think that means we have listened. We have listened. And if the people don't want us to go forward with any of these projects, I guess that's something we'll have to deal with as well. So that could be the question that you might ask. So anyway, that was just a thought. But I hope that we do know that we're not going to put the initiative on the ballot for a lease revenue bond in November based on the signatures that were gathered. That's not going to happen. At least I got 0 sense from the board that that would be somewhere we're headed. So those are just some insights and thoughts, but I would love to hear the rest.
I guess my thoughts on this are, I'm hearing from my constituents, now I know that we all represent different people, that they are actually in support of the school district building these buildings and moving forward, and understand the financing is necessary, and realize that we do not have a year to 18 months to put this off. And I think that the longer we hold off, the more it's going to cost us and the greater the needs are going to be. And just with this Lakeview situation, it's become really more apparent to me, because when you have a school with the sewer and the restrooms, and it was an inconvenience for most students, and they could survive. But there were some that was actually, it inhibited their learning in a very significant way. And if we say we are here to educate all students and we do not provide facilities that are appropriate for those students to be educated in, then we are not doing our jobs. And if that's going to cost us some money, and I think with this plan, we've shown we're putting sewer, we realize we don't have the money to build all the buildings that we need. It's just a fact. But if we can use the buildings that we have and make them more usable for longer and prevent some of those issues, then we are serving the needs of all of our students and not just, and even if it's only 2% of the students that we're not serving because of these needs, that's 2% of our students. And I would argue it's far more than that because of we don't know the situations or the circumstances that every child is coming from. And so we have to have safe schools. That's where those secure vestibules. We need to have functional schools. And if we have to put in money, and air conditioning has been a big push, and people that I've talked to are like, my kids, they're elementary, like, why don't we have air conditioning in Lakeview? And because in the past we're like, well, we're going to replace Lakeview. Do we want to put that much money into it? Well, we're at the point where, yeah, we're going to have to keep using Lakeview. So we've got to put money into those things. But from what I'm seeing from cities and the growth that we're experiencing or potentially experiencing, we have got to be prepared and do everything we can to make our buildings last longer, and then do what we can now and not put it off until later. And so I know that they gathered signatures. I know there are people that are very adamantly opposed to our plans, but from the people that I've talked to, they are actually supportive of moving forward, and they want us to do something. They want us to invest in our schools and our infrastructure.
Again, I'm not opposed to the projects. I'm just wondering I think the way that we're legally supposed to move forward is based off of we're supposed to represent the residents. So I'm just wondering, have we looked at other funding mechanisms? Have we looked at getting grants or other options for getting money?
There are no
And-
grants available to build schools.
Julie was saying that the people she's listening to want it, and some of the people I've heard want the elementary schools. That's why I think that they would actually pass a bond. But I think that we've got to go back and Keith mentioned, we've heard that from the bond that didn't pass, the people didn't want that. We've heard from the signatures, they didn't want that. What mechanism do the people have to tell us they don't want this? How do we know that we're doing what we're supposed to legally do, and that's represent residents? Because I don't know that they have a mechanism to come back and tell us they don't want this.
I want to say one thing here. What we're doing is legal. We've run it through our bond counsel at Chapman and Cutler. They've done the research. We are allowed to do this. School districts have needs they have to address on a regular basis. I'll give you an example. Earthquake in 2020 in Magna damaged a school in Granite School District. They were unable to inhabit. They would not have been able to fix that school for the following school year if they were not allowed to get a loan right then and there. That was an immediate need they had. They could not have the luxury of going out to the voters in a bond election to ask for the permission to get a loan. They had to address it then because they had a school that would not be functional for a significant amount of time if they did not.
I guess I just would add, in the Tremont end, I just see how crowded they are, and we also serve these kids to make sure that they have a good place to learn, which I mean, we talk about the portables, how they're nice because they have the air conditioning, but we're also running down our buildings that we have currently because they're being overused, a good word, I don't know, but the restrooms and just putting that added pressure onto those buildings, that I see that putting it out to the ballot would be really, what's the word, like, supportive. Can somebody says that they want that. What's it validating? It'd be very validating for the community to be able to say yes to. But in the back of my mind, well, what happens if they say no? And then what about all these kids that are also now moving in and as we continue to grow, like I just feel like we're doing such a disservice to the students that are there that this is impacting a lot. You know, the new school comes in, Garland students that are going to Fielding can now come back to Garland. Kids that are getting bused from Thatcher can now go to the closer school, and now Garland kids can go to Garland, and McKinley can fit in their school. It just doesn't seem like this is a want. It really does seem like a need, and I just think we have an obligation to these students to make decisions that are in our purview to make sure that that happens. I don't know. That's, I guess, how I feel.
I would add that we did a demographic study. The study came back and said over the next 5 years, over 5,000 households are planned in new construction for our county. So if we were to go to the voters and wait till next year to start this process, this new school probably wouldn't be functional, have students in it for 3 years. We're in the middle of the thick of the growth cycle in 3 years. I feel like that if we wait that time, we're gonna have 15 more portables in the north end than we have right now. One consideration in our calculus to put this plan forward.
If I remember right on the survey that came back from the, what's that big word again?
Demographer?
Demographer. I think we are up 190 students in 5 years, which if you spread that out, it's like 1 student per classroom. So we do have growth, but I don't know that it's overwhelming growth per the demographer, not me, per the demographer. So the other thing I'm, again, stressing is that I don't know that anybody would say that these projects don't need to be done. I'm just saying that the financing mechanism looks a lot like we're just trying to go around what they petitioned us not to. I don't know if that's crossing any lines that maybe we wanted to consider. I've had a lot of phone calls since the newspaper article came out a couple weeks ago. I don't take the newspaper, but I've had a lot of phone calls saying that in an interview with Keith, that he acknowledged that we need to build trust. Again, I haven't read the article, just what people have been telling me. So if we want to do that, I'm just wondering, is this the best way to do that? Or is it might be better in the long run to build trust for future projects, to go back and get their input and help them to feel like that they're a vested part of this?
I would say that's a board discussion item. Us as leadership are putting forth a plan that we think addresses our needs educationally. We feel this is the best way to address them in the near term.
So speaking to that, Karen, because I've thought about that a lot. I thought, are we going against the will of the voters? Is this, number one, it's not illegal. I don't think we are doing anything that's out of line, out of step in any way, shape, or form. I think what we have is an obligation to our students and to our residents and to go forward in the best way we can. So I don't think it's a legal matter at all. But secondly, one of the things that I consider as a board member is I'm a representative of the people, but that doesn't mean I listen to the loudest or that I have to, you know, like they did gather signatures, but that was still not the full percentage of the county. We know the bond failed at a significant rate, yes, so we went and reworked it. But as a representative, I feel like they're putting trust in us to look at the data, look at the solutions, look at what we need to do, and make the best decision possible. I see Tom's here, Tom Peterson. He's my representative in the state legislature, and I don't necessarily know all the decisions that they make and what they're doing, but I know he's representing a large group of people, and he has to, but I also trust that he's doing his homework. Like when he goes to vote on something, he's looked at it and said, is this what is best for the majority of the people for the purpose that it is? And I think that's our role as board members. I don't think our role is to go out and take a poll every time we're going to do something and say, are you okay with spending this money this way? Are you okay with spending money that way? I think ours, we take the feedback and they say, yes, we support these projects. And we say, okay, this is how we have ability to do that. And then we move forward in that way. And so one of the things that I think that when we talk to the public about this, I think we need to be really clear that it's not that we're not listening to you. It's that we are trying to do what you want us to. Because I've heard people say, we want the elementaries, we want those things, but hold off until we approve it in a certain way. And I just think that's actually costing us more money and actually depleting trust with the rest of the community, that the people that, like I said, the people that I've talked to, they're just like, my kids are suffering. How come for example, like Golden Spike, new school, and they had something there, and they had like different dance, it was literacy night, and they had different dance companies or different performance groups come and perform. And her kids go to Lakeview, and they went and performed there. She's like, how is that fair that my kids have to go to this school without even having bathrooms, and then other kids have to go here? And it's the same thing, how come my kids are all crowded into this space where this school has plenty of space and room available? And and I think that we have to consider the whole, we need the space. We're trying to make things right and obviously we have older buildings and we can't just build everything new, but I think the public is asking us to do what is best with the money that we have in the way the best we can. And this is our option. We don't have a huge business coming in. In fact, any business that does come in, we don't get the taxes for a long time. We have a different demographic. We know that, but we are a community and we are trying to do what's right as a community to benefit our students and our community in the best way we know how. And so when I look at it this way, I don't think we're going behind anybody's backs. We're being very open and saying, we need this done. This is the option we have. And we need to move forward because any wait is actually costing us more. And I even was saying, I don't know if they pass it with just that particular thing on the bond because it's only affecting small groups of people. And maybe the Lakeview parents are like, well, I'm getting nothing out of this. Like they could be upset and do so. I don't know. I said too much, but that's what I'm thinking.
I guess that's where my biggest question lately has been is like, if we're gonna take everything to the ballot, then what am I doing here? Like, why am I doing all this homework to figure out if this is a good idea if we should just put it on the ballot? I guess that's just been I don't understand.
So, just the political culture, the climate that we've been in for the past couple of years, I just think over and over again that we live in a representative republic, not people vote for representatives. Not only, we don't go by popular opinion. We don't run by. We don't sway and make decisions based on popularity in the moment. We study things out and we are elected to choose to do what is best. I think we've said this a lot for this board, has said we want to get the biggest bang for the buck. We're trying to spread out the funds that we receive in the best way possible to affect the most students possible and teachers. And that just keeps coming back to me. To run a poll and to run a questionnaire, whatever, for all these decisions isn't what that's not how our government runs. I have not had someone talk to me and say, I want you to give my taxes back. I have had a lot of people say to me, what are you gonna do with it? You've got it, what are you gonna do with it? And some of those names were on the petition. And I've also had people say, I signed that petition because they told me you were raising my taxes again. So the petition bears weight with me. It's important. I'm listening. But there were people on that signed that petition for all different reasons, not just saying, I think I would dare say that it's the vast minority that signed that petition to say, we don't like the funding mechanism you're using. I know some did. But people signed that petition for all different reasons. For spite, a huge amount for spite because they were angry about their taxes. But what I'm hearing now even from that email that I forwarded to I think all of you from the Tremonton groups that represent 4/4 of Tremonton, they don't want to know if they're getting their taxes back. They want to know, are you looking for growth? What are you doing with our money? Now that you've got it, what is your plan? And so personally, I'm not willing, and this isn't a vote, we're not taking a vote tonight, this is a discussion. I'm not willing to say, let's give the taxes back, because it wastes time, it wastes money, and we're rethinking and we're reusing, and I think we're trying to use this money to get the biggest bang for our buck for the most people. So, that's all.
I'm not suggesting that we take a poll on everything. I think that 95%, probably 98% of our decisions we make, and we do the best we can to represent the people. I'm just saying that we've had this kind of a question with the bond, with the petition. On this question, I think that it might be worth going back to the people on that. I'm not saying that the projects aren't good projects. I'm just saying that I think that the people have kind of said, okay, on this one, we want to be able to have some input. That's all I'm saying. I know that we've heard that some people are getting phone calls saying that they support this. And like I said, I've had some that say, I would definitely support elementary schools and, you know, the security issues. So that's why I'm a believer that if we rolled back the taxes, give the public the opportunity to be invested in it, I think we have a very good public. I think that they would see that these are needs, and I think that they would actually vote for that GO bond, which I think would be the right way to do it. But just a side note, I have also had a member of my community come and tell me that their neighbor is now selling her blood twice a month to be able to pay for increased taxes. So I don't know what everybody out there is doing, but I know that this is hurting some people, and so I'm just wondering if there's a better way.
Thank you. Thank you for that input, really. Just, Danielle, did you have anything you want to add to any of this? No? All right. Is there any other discussion? Directors, do you have anything for us? Any wisdom, director or superintendent you'd like to share? Okay. Oh, yep, go ahead.
No, I think we've had this discussion.
Yeah, we've had it several times, and I appreciate it. And it's so important for us to really understand, try to understand what it means. So I appreciate this time. Does anyone feel like we need to keep?
Here, yeah, I'll hand that.
I just wanted to say after, I don't remember which meeting it was, but we did have a lot of the members that were really pushing the petition and really advocating to get that signed. A member from the community up north that lives kind of by me. I don't know this individual very well, but after one of the board meetings where they came to listen about what we were doing, this individual, she stopped and stayed at the end when the board went into closed session, and she spoke very strongly and adamantly about the fact that as she was gathering those votes, she felt like the people really wanted to see West Tremonton built, that area really strongly feels that it needs done. And I just wanted to speak because as you said, I do think that a lot of people signed the petition for a lot of different reasons, and we can't really speak to what that reason was, but I just thought it was worth noting that that individual who was listening to a lot of people and really pushing that petition felt like we really do need to move forward with Tremonton. And I've gone back and forth on this a lot, and I just don't know how to meet the needs of the students in elementary school without doing something. It's not fair what we're doing in our Title I schools to those kids, and it is our 3 Title I schools that are seeing the most amount of impact. They're the ones with less playground space. They're the schools with less flexible space in their classrooms. We don't have those same problems at 3 Mile Creek, and it's a big difference for those kids in our most impacted schools that see the hardest things day in, day out. And this has been a problem that we've had for 4 years since I've been in my position. A big fear about the building and construction that's going in Tremont and how that's going to impact the schools. And we've been limping along for a really long time, doing all that we can to make do and do without and support the kids. And I do genuinely believe that the majority of the community does understand that something has to be done for elementary schools. And that's just what I wanted to add as the elementary assistant superintendent, since that's what we're discussing.
Ultimately, all this information, as we think about the different views that are shown to us tonight, ultimately, so as we have action items in board meetings to approve contract, like through, I know help me here, the construction, what is the name of that? The construction management, the action item on Wednesday, right? That's a vote. So we just, if you at that meeting decide, no, this is not the way I want to move forward, then that's when you vote for that, right? And then we rethink things.
Can we propose a brief restroom break for a few minutes here before our next topic?
8:30, reconvene, that's good enough.
So I didn't even get to ask you what you thought about being there this week. I should ask you.
The facilities, most of it, I think, the facilities.
So before we go to facility,
Clay, would you join us up here?
right next to Corey. He doesn't bite.
And Mr. Gilmore, I think you were up here too. Now, I want to clarify, the facilities committee was shown this 2 months ago?
About that, yeah.
About 2 months ago, part of it, I don't even think all of it. And this is just a way to, there's a problem.
Yes.
There's a big problem. So we need a solution. This
Yes.
is one solution, correct?
That's correct. It's a proposal from the facilities leadership of how we can fix some problems we see.
All right, and this solution wasn't built by the facilities board members committee, right?
Correct.
But we were shown it a couple months ago.
Yeah. And I'll lean on Corey here to correct me on size if they're wrong. Is this the right size of Box Elder High? 51. I'm close. All right. This is the size of Box Elder High. As we can see by the text here, it's actually 51 acres. Look how spread out it is. We have the, let's see if this is going to work here. Here we go. We have the net right here. We have the baseball and softball up here. Then we have the football field. We have the CT area, the main part of the building. Then we have parking back here, additional practice fields. Down here at the tennis courts. We're pretty well spread out. Now, when we get to Bear River, we're at 29 acres. Is that accurate, Corey? And let's see if this is going to work here. We have softball next to baseball. We don't have a lot of parking, and those sports happen in the same season. Here we have the track, and lacrosse happens in the springtime. All four of those sports happen at the same time, and sometimes we have home events for all four sports. There's not a lot of parking and space back here. We have a practice field up here that also doubles as a parking lot during spring for our different athletic events. Seminary building we don't quite own yet, but we don't have parking up there. And then I go across the street, we have parking over here, and then we have the NAT over here and more parking. But what happens is, and we can't really see this on my picture here, I apologize, along these roads up here on 1400 North, students park on both sides of the roads because we don't have adequate parking. Down here, in between the Bear Center and the CTE building and the main building, we have buses running back here to pick up students. We have buses running in front here to pick up students, and over here. We have student parking over here that students cross right here and create a massive traffic jam on Main Street. Same thing up here, to cross over here. We have a parking problem. We have a space problem.
Where's the seminary going to be built?
Okay, I'll get to that.
Okay, it's not anywhere there.
It is, but I think my visual better illustrates it. So our parking problem creates a student safety problem. Now, to the north here, we own land across the street, but it's not really safe to have kids crossing that main road on a regular basis for parking. It also requires significant amount of construction to get it there. So here's our bus loading zones. Behind, we load some special ed students, but we also load in front as well. This is morning and afternoon. It happens. There's about 35 buses that come to this area on a daily basis, each morning, each afternoon. It's a lot of bus traffic and a lot of student traffic mixed with buses. A lot of traffic on Main Street that gets backed up for students crossing back and forth and buses. We really think that we need to alleviate this in some form or fashion. So we went through a design phase as part of the RFP authorized about this time last year to redesign this campus. The intent was to allow ninth graders to come over to the high school. So this is what the redesign looked like. let's see if I can get this to work better here. So proposal is to purchase a seminary building, which we are going to be doing, and we would have extended this building up through here. Now that we're no longer building this for the time being, this area right here, the seminary building, become a parking lot. Next year, in August of 27, probably be available for us to construct a parking lot. Here's a new seminary building right here, right across the street. We traded land size for land size for them to have this building over here. And so we need to create a parking entrance right here for parking to come in the backside of the auditorium, because Main Street is a UDOT road. UDOT will not authorize another curb cut to allow traffic in from this side over here. So we're going to have to come in down through here to put parking in here. And then here's a potential moving of the base of the softball field, because we want to create the practice field, make that a parking lot for students and for buses. Buses would come in around the perimeter of the field of the parking lot to line up for students to board them. That removes them from behind here and in front of the school where we have lots of traffic already. And in the center would be student parking during school time and event parking for different events we have at the high school. Doing that, we need a practice space. So the softball field will become a practice field. And then the softball field will move over here. In doing so, that alleviates spring sports congestion back here and people trying to get out on Main Street from behind the school. If we moved over here, they could park in the auditorium parking right here and exit out that way. They could park over here and exit this way or down Main Street easier, and wouldn't create so much traffic behind the school during events. So this is what it looks like. Add parking and remove, and it also removes all the student parking from the roads. We wouldn't allow any student parking on the roads anymore. Creates a safety issue. The speed limit on that road up there, 1400 North, is pretty quick. And we'd hate to see an accident like that involving a vehicle. Either students backing out because they pull in, or students trying to cross the road or get in their vehicle. It's just a risk that we think we need to address sooner than later. So the auditorium parking lot changes. Seminary is going to start construction this summer, probably August or September. And then we need the access drive to go in here to the back parking lot and potential expanded parking lot on the new softball field if we choose to do that. But we do need to create this parking access drive this summer to bring in there. And it can be a temporary drive. It doesn't have to be permanent, but this is part of this plan to be allowed to gain access back off of 1400 North into the natatorium parking.
Neil,
Yes.
this was the slide that you was waiting for Karen to see that? Or
Yes.
Okay.
So-
Where the new
Yes.
center will be, north of the natatorium.
Any other questions so far?
So what are they doing right there now? What are they using that area right there that you're proposing a new softball field?
Right now, that's a practice field or middle school. So
They used to be the soccer field. And they have adequate PE space north of the building, and even north of this, there's still a fairly good chunk.
Right, that grass area is not used for middle school anything right now, right?
It's rarely.
Rarely. It's not needed for PE space. Okay.
practice field changes. So the current softball field will become the practice field next to tennis courts. Eventually, we would, if we use the current design we've invested in for this high school, we would take down the CTE building right here and build a new space here, and this will all become parking. And I forgot to mention, we also have tennis back here. So tennis is another spring sport. So we have 5 spring sports potentially that are occurring on this 29 acres that most high schools have double the space.
Neil,
What you were saying about the CT.
that CTE building and changes down the road quite a ways.
Down the way,
That's
quite
not-
close, yes, yeah. We're using existing design that we worked on for the expansion as a basis of how we can improve access and parking at this campus. Those are those slides. This is a brief overview. If you go back to remember the initial slides, we're proposing, let me see, I think it's 4 or, yeah, I don't want to misspeak. $4 million for improvements. Yes. That's just estimate from architects of what it may cost. We don't have any bids. This isn't even designed yet. This is a rough stage 1 design of this campus. We haven't gone through engineering on this campus yet. And so the engineering and design work, civil work has not been completed yet. We haven't even gone down that route yet. We haven't invested in that. But this is where we're at so far with the high school plans. Yes, Stephanie.
Are you continuing on this conversation or
Yeah, this is your time now. I'm done with the presentation about but we can go back to the pictures.
Well, I don't know if this is a you question or a you question, but we just approved doing the turf for the baseball. But we'll also be doing it for the softball as well. So this is a really good time to make that decision so that we're not undoing what we just do. So making that plan. Gotcha. And so that does the money that we approved, is that part of the 4 million or is
No.
that?
Money, so that we approved receiving a donation for the purposes of renovating the baseball field. We haven't approved that project yet.
But we were matching it.
Yes. For the match.
The match funds are not included in this 4 million.
No, it actually, if we include the match funds, that would be a $3.5 million. But that match is not part of the budget that we're doing right now.
Okay, thank you.
As we've looked through these options and I've talked with Neil, we want to be clear that the issues we are trying to solve are traffic, parking, and busing. And in the process of this and doing the shuffling of things around to make a better setup, there are some benefits that extracurricular activities will gain, but they are not the reason that this is happening. It is a crazy cramped campus that they are doing all they can to make it work, and it's just a struggle all the time. I don't know if you want to say anything else on that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We're basically doing everything we can do. We probably have 35% of our students right now that don't park in any parking lot. They park on streets, they park across from where the practice football field is on both sides, all the way down the block, all the way to almost to the railroad tracks. We have people that park there. We have people that park in between the natatorium and the parking lot on the street all the way that way. And then on the north side, all the way down on that piece every day. Come in the wintertime when there's a few snow piles, it makes it even worse. The bus thing behind the school is a huge issue. We have I think we have 8 buses that go behind the school, including our sped buses that have the kids that have to have like wheelchairs and things. That's where they drop kids off. We have no choice, but we have kids that have to walk past in between those buses all the time. They have to because of where their classes are. So, like Corey said, the real problem is the parking and the access to the school. In order to fix that, you're going to have to do some other things to make sure that that those get moved to a certain place. It's a lot like what happened with the baseball and softball field at Box Elder. In order to be able to build those buildings there, you had to relocate, and in order to do that, sometimes you have to do moves. So, yeah, I don't know if there's any questions on the parking or just the congestion. Neil's not wrong. We actually have 6 sports that would be there. You got baseball, softball, track, both lacrosse, tennis, and then we have boys soccer. We have generally baseball, softball, a game on the turf, tennis, and a game in the gym all on the same night. And we have, we've had a couple of instances where we have some older people that like to come to games. They literally have to walk from all the way over here by the junior high school, all the way to the back of the building because they have nowhere else to park. So.
Yeah. And I would say if you're wheelchair bound or have difficulty with mobility, trying to get to the back of the softball field, the bleachers down that gravel or cobblestone, what you call it, path is difficult.
I was just gonna say, we've only been able to make it one game this year. It was a softball game in Lane, and I watched a woman in a motorized wheelchair try to get from where the stadium seats are behind the softball field around to go to the restroom. And it was uncomfortable. Like, it's hard.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, do we have handicap stalls there now for people to park at? Do we have handicap parking?
In the blacktop areas, but not actually by the feet. But yes, in the parking area, Neil, highlight where it's just
Let's.
By the bear?
This is
right, just north of the tennis courts.
tennis courts.
Right. Yeah. So yes, there are handicap parking.
Right in there.
Right there. And it's close to the. Yes. But yeah.
When we get those grandparents coming, there's a lot of them.
It'd be nice to grandparents, would you?
I was gonna say, hopefully they're not all leading the handicap, because that's where I'm at.
Do we have any questions about this proposal idea? This will be from existing capital funds. So and I don't mean to make anybody sick here, but if we go back here to the proposed budget, it's within our existing capital funds that we'd be using this for. We would not be raising any additional funds to make this happen.
Is that one of the line items, or is that?
Yeah, down here, Bear River improvements, $4 million.
And the vote is for that is in June, right?
So yeah, the process will be process that superintendent works with me to develop a budget. He tells me what the priorities are. We put the numbers together in the budget book to publish for the public to consume, as well as the board. And then in June, we will have a vote on what is going to be the proposed budget. So the plan is to include that in the budget for the board to consider in June. Yes. Then we essentially have permission from the board to start the construction planning process, to go through engineering, design, and go get bids. I wouldn't anticipate that happening, starting construction before the fall, possibly next spring on many parts of this. There's some parts we can do. Parking lot's easy to do, but the field moves and the other parts of it would take more time.
So an immediate need would be access to the natatorium parking lot. Because right now we have one access that's on the north, and it's right where the new seminary building would be built. So before next school year starts, there's a non-negotiable that we have to have access into that parking lot, even if it's just a road-based road, but those can be difficult to push snow off of. And that field between the natatorium and Bear River Middle School is currently flood irrigated. So there are some considerations that we do need to deal with before students are back in school next fall, or immediately, because as soon as the LDS church takes over that area, we lose our access. So we're gonna have to do that in conjunction of them fencing off that section.
I would add that's probably the least costly part of this project. It's the easiest to do.
That's also going to take over 100 parking spaces there. That's
The seminary building.
Yeah, where they're putting the seminary building, that we have a ton of parking right there. That will take almost all of that because of the way that they access that and the way that they'll park on it. So again, we're going from not very much to even less.
So how many current parking spaces do we have right now versus how many will we have if this is put through?
Are we talking about the seminary portion or the whole project? I don't have an estimate on that, but that parking lot is a pretty large parking lot. Let me see if I can read that, what it says. 225 by 49. So that's a large 200, it's a nearly a football field long.
It's actually a little bit bigger, I mean, as far as the whole thing. Right now, there's about 240 spaces in the parking lot south of the natatorium. That goes all the way over towards the middle school, that little L space right there. We have about 180 spaces on the north side of the natatorium, which that will take roughly 100 spots. So then you're looking at it, but I think it'll actually take a little bit more than that because of how you're gonna put the access points in. I think that'll actually take more parking away as well. I'm pretty sure you're gonna get at least that much and most likely more over here on the practice football field. It's a bigger space than either one of those two are, so. Yeah, you will lose, yeah, because you will have the bus lanes that go around.
Yes.
But also next to the tennis courts and, would we get those? Not yet.
Not yet.
Not, okay, perfect. It's just where like your exiting is.
So we're looking at here, some here. When the seminary comes down, the seminary we will raise that and we will make it a parking lot. So that's 12.
Students?
Yes, 12 months out. Well, we haven't decided students or staff, but we will have parking. My preference is in designing this is that staff park behind the school only and students park up here at the top and across the road and over here.
So if I remember right, you said that this plan would have all parking of students and staff in a parking lot, not on the streets.
That's correct.
You've already done the math.
That's the goal. That's the goal. I mean, it all depends on how many kids drive to school, honestly, but that would go a long ways.
Well, we feel like current drivers would all fit in this current system right now.
So current drivers would fit in it.
Yes. I mean, if we have 300-400 more students in the future, that's another conversation. Well, if you listen to the Tremont and City Planner minutes, they're looking for a big developments on Rady Hill. So I think it's more closer to reality than we wanted to believe. Any other questions on this or anything we've talked about tonight? I think I turn it back over to the board president.
All right, I think we have reached the end of our agenda. Does anyone else? I don't think we do it. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Reminder, 6 o'clock next Wednesday at Young Intermediate for the reception for the retirees, and then board meeting starts at 6:30. Young Intermediate.
Thank you.
The reception. Is that what we call that? The reception? Open house?
Time of reception.
That's what it says.
Is it? And then the next night is the